And another side note here before we get back into serious Star Wars stuff, but this is actually a serious thing, and I appreciate the cultural diversity. This is a genuine thing, okay? I appreciate the cultural diversity that The Mandalorian presents. Like, first of all, the character that plays Mando, and he's obviously got a name of Spanish descent. I don't know if he's from Spain or if he's Hispanic, and he's from Latin America, South America, or Mexico. But number one, it's not a white guy that's playing Mando. He's lighter European skin, but he's Spanish. You've got an Asian actress in this episode. You've got black actors that are part of these episodes.
Yeah.
What I love about both, I love this from Clone Wars, is that he's Maori and he's from New Zealand. This actor is. And in this episode, I actually had this in the notes, so I just didn't know when I was going to share it, so I jumped in here. In the episode, from beginning to end, there's multiple times where you hear the didgeridoo. And you can see a didgeridoo, authentic didgeridoo, not bought in a shop behind me, above my head here, lining the cross of the shelf. This is from Western Australia that was gifted to me. You can hear that didgeridoo playing that mysterious sound. So that's Australia. That's not New Zealand. I'm not confusing the two as the same places. They're across the ditch from each other. But you have this cultural diversity that's not only within like an American cultural diversity, but it has a global diversity to it. And it speaks to just the racial and interplanetary kind of species, like there's a lot of interplay there that I think is really cool in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy about The Mandalorian the cultural diversity that they bring up. And the weapon that you texted a picture of me to, when we get to that fight scene, I've got a little bit of something there special to unpack with some background on that. I'll say for them.
I want to hear your gaffy stick knowledge.
I wanted to celebrate the cultural diversity of The Mandalorian, and I don't think that's on accident, and I really like it that it would be on purpose, and that at the same time it doesn't matter. It doesn't. I think it enhances the story, but you're so into this. I've been so into the story. It's really taken me to this point, and maybe it's because I'm a white guy, where I went, this is really cool how this is a diverse grouping of people that are making up this cast and acting. So that's my side rant about that. But
I think it's really cool that they've got a wide variety of diversity, but also they still find a way to fall back on stereotypes that we all deal with, and assumptions being made just about, like, we've talked on previous episodes how there's just like, well, of course you as a Mandalorian wouldn't like those Jedis because for generations, you guys fought against them, this and that, and it's kind of like, yeah, but like if you and
Mando's aloof from that. Like,
yeah, that's what I think is beautiful, because that's like more representation of like what my kids, honestly, I think my kids, when they go to school, they really don't see color and they don't see that as a limitation in the way that you and me grew up. And there was like clearly, well, that's kind of backward thinking, but Uncle so-and-so thinks that way, and we don't say that. We don't use that term. It's not a term of endearment, type thing.
But with the Jedi connection with Mando, and it's really highlighted in this episode when he says things like Jedi stuff. Does this look like Jedi stuff to you? Are you going to do that Jedi stuff now? Like, what about these? He seems, even when they brought it up in previous episodes about the historical tension between Jedi and Mandalorians, he's kind of going, okay, I'm listening. I don't really know what you're talking about. He seems to have been born into history and a part of this very closed off Mandalorian cult clan, the Children of the Watch thing, where he is isolated from some of these Mandalorian aspects of society that other Mandalorians, it's just common knowledge for them. But even with his traversing the galaxy, Jedi seem to be an unknown entity to him. So it's falling in this place after the Empire, after the Old Republic, and where, you know, Ahsoka Tano is like she's Ronin. She is masterless as someone trained in the Jedi art, and so it's really hard to find a Jedi these days. That's part of the issue with his quest. And back to his patience thing, he will do every and any side quest that anybody even suggests to him after they utter the phrase, "This is the way." And now all of a sudden he's trying to hurry up the Force. Let's go, kid. Let's go. Like, get the blue Force shield thing over with. We need to move on so that we can get you to your Jedi daddy or whoever that is.
And it's almost like he's representing a little bit of the denial that we at the early on we saw from Han Solo, of like, yeah, sure, there's a Force that's going to save you there. All I know is you better have the best hand at sabacc, or you're not walking away from the table. You know,
street smarts.
He like the whole denial of the Force, and you know, so it's interesting there, like where I guess that's a good segue for us to realize that there are some people that are out there that like think we're ridiculous and silly that we have this relationship with Christ, and that we have like so much faith, and that we would live our lives in a way that actually is like dependent upon that, you know.
And I'm okay with that. And I can see why people would think that that's ridiculous. And because it does take faith. I mean, saying that Christ raised from the dead, and that's the hope that we live in. And, you know, that we believe that we're, you know, those that die in Christ are all going to be raised from the dead, and God's going to make everything new, and a new heaven and new earth. I love the message from Johnny this morning. And where he, just all the places that he went with that. An eschatological serenity, that phrase that he said, like having a peace about not knowing what's going to happen in the end times, and just faith and ambiguity. I mean, it was just like, yeah. So yeah, man, I'm with you. What is the way is a good question.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So where were we? I think so he's introduced himself. He's also explained to him that he's got a rifle trained on the kiddo, which
scope lock. I didn't understand that technology.
I don't understand why he didn't like feel like, okay, I couldn't penetrate that blue force field. What is a bullet actually gonna? It's not gonna penetrate that field. The kid's safe. Okay.
Right.
This is the most secure daycare, exclusive daycare, like setting possible for a Jedi child at the current time. But they get into this negotiation, and they're interrupted in this negotiation. He makes it clear that he wants his Beskar armor back, and that it belongs to him, and that he has a right for it. So, but in the middle of that, we see these troop transports, and I did some stuff where I was looking on YouTube, and it's explained that those troop transports, I think, are used at the beginning of episode 7. When they're landing. And here's what I don't understand about the Empire. The Empire seems to focus how they land. They land so that they're troopers. They run out, and they are just like
in the line of fire.
target practice. You know, I'm not sure if they know about this, but if you would unload those troops 180 degrees over that,
they could use
the ship as cover. But that's a whole different like.
We got more where that came from. Just send them in as cannon fodder.
Absolutely.
Steve, look. Pause a second here. Back up. Gunfight, or the standoff between Boba and Mando, and Fennec Shand with the sniper lock on the kid. Okay, why does Boba ask Mando to take off his jetpack and set down? He doesn't say set down your gun. He says set down your jetpack. Why does he ask him to do that?
I think because he doesn't want to give up the high ground.
Okay, because he could just all of a sudden shoot up in the air.
Yeah,
and now
if Mando, if Mando has the jetpack on there, he has the high ground. And I think that Boba is not sure if the new jetpacks have that one particular button that's vulnerable on the back that we previously discussed, that will just actually, all you have to do is trigger it, and it makes them fly.
Whoever's wearing it, then it's bad luck. Yeah. Today today your jetpack will seemingly malfunction, but no, someone actually just pressed this button. Do not press this button.
Exactly. It's very similar to when I'm watching TV shows with the family, and there becomes one of the drug commercials will come on, and they have the line, the first lawyer who wrote, if you're allergic to this, do not take it. Okay. I have a feeling that there's a very similar wording on the jetpacks that when they're selling them to the different Mandalorians that says, if you like to have control over the function of this, don't push this button.
Yeah.
Like, because
side effects include.
Yeah. All right. So the troops start rolling out, and they just start getting picked off left and right. And how many troopers do you think fit in those?
At least a squad. I mean, I was thinking it was at least a squad or two.
It's got to be. I see one or two guys with the orange shoulder
pad. Yeah.
insignias. Yeah. So they come out there, and it's interesting. Like you can see that they're getting picked off left and right, where they're taking some on the plates, but they're pretty adept at hitting like in the collar areas.
Yeah, they know the vulnerable points.
Yeah. It's not exactly like when I was in the military, they taught us to shoot center mass. Like if you shot center mass, I think that probably would diffuse as good as any. Right. And I like how he gets to the point and they show the stick. I'm looking at it right there, and they pan down to the gaffy stick.
Yeah.
And you see how pointed that thing is.
Right.
On the one end, and you're like, oh, that seems like that would like match up really well with a bucket head. And not too long before you see a few different stormtrooper heads getting cracked.
It was like porcelain dolls. It was like, I mean, talk about the whole bowl in a china shop type thing.
Oh yeah.
This is the Maori cloned bowl going hoss. And the stormtroopers, they didn't. I mean, he's not even using like a powered firing weapon. He has a pointy club stick, and he's dealing death blows left and right. Not even double-handed, one-handed with this thing, with just these kill shots. It was stunning.
It really was, and it's a 3 or 4 minute sequence. It was a fantastic fight. I will give it to this. If this is what you get out of a shorter episode, it was
dense. They packed it in.
Oh, absolutely. It was fantastic. Oh, just upside the head. And he turns around and he has some really awesome moments where you see him staring different people down, and like the one guy, like he's looking at him kind of like, you should have stayed down, you know.
Right. Why did you get back up again? I love how he used there's the one end of the gaffy that's got the kind of the club thing, and then it's got the spike, and he would use that to like grab a gun and then come back around. There was no wasted movement. If these probably aren't even real words, but if his kinesiological economy was sharp.
Oh, absolutely. You know? It was very much Mr. Miyagi. If do right, no can defend.
I mean,
like no wasted.
The second they stepped off that ship, their movements, their energy belonged to him, and they might as well just lay down on the ground and just that would have been their best move. Just lay down on the ground in various patterns and play dead, because 1, 2, 3, the gaffy is coming for me.
So we get into this, we've identified, the friend of my enemy is my friend, or the enemy of my enemy is my friend type situation where they're all focused at the troopers, and he's like, I'll go protect the child. This seems like it would be the crucial point where your negotiations have broken down. I think it's okay if you have, before he controlled it and he flew it back to him. Why can he not fly it to himself right now?
Right.
Other than giving up his position.
Yeah.
But at least then he would have the jetpack. And
that's a good point, Steve. Why didn't he use remote control? Where was his Rising Phoenix training in these moments?
Yeah.
You know, that he really let himself down.
Mm-hmm. And I've got another question that comes up. I'm curious at another time. Like Mando has one of the capes, and the capes only cover like one side.
Right.
It's only on one side, and I don't quite understand like the purpose of the cape, other than my wife is always worried that it's like, why does it not burn? Like, how does it not?
Because of the jetpack. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, and
well, it may be a burn-resistant material. I'm impressed that you have a cape that's actually like sewn onto that Boba Fett armor shirt. Like that's pretty impressive to me right now.
Oh, well, this is not the armor shirt. This is the full costume that we've got today. We went full today because it's
the full Monty Boba.
Yes, yeah.
Dang boy, dang fairy, Steve.
Well, you got to step things up for This Is the Way podcast.
I mean, I wore a Boba Fett shirt that I've worn before because that's my favorite one, but I had to.
I like that one.
I mean, I'm bringing this guy in the picture too again. I'm just saying.
Oh, that looks good. That looks good.
I have to ask him about that shot in the head these days.
So what can you tell me about the gaffy stick?
Yeah, I was just going to say, okay, so this is totally coming from just a quick internet search. I have been to New Zealand a couple of times. I have met Maori friends. I've never talked to them about this, but just a quick search. When you sent me that picture of the gaffy stick, like I'm adding this to my Christmas list, I was like, of course you are, Steve. I love that. There is a weapon in Maori culture, and it's spelled T-E-W-H-A-T-E-W-A. So I would pronounce, I don't know how to say it right, Tiwa. And it's a stick about this long. Okay. It's a stick about this long, and it's got a club on one end, and it's got a spike on the other. Just the way that he was moving, and I was noticing him move, and just kind of just the Maori-ish type, like that haka where you got the head and like the tongue and the eyes, and I was like, this is an intuitive weapon, for this guy. I'm totally reading into it. I'm totally projecting into it. I totally don't have any idea what I'm talking about, but it just compelled me to do a search of what are traditional Maori hand weapons, and I found it again culturally interesting that they give to Boba Fett, who has become a part of the visual Star Wars movie lore, this clone figure that's cloned from an actor that's Maori and from New Zealand. I think it stands, the New Zealand traditional name, it actually means like the land of the eternally long cloud or something like that. I butchered that. But I just thought, put a weapon that's kind of traditional, that's from a tribal people in the Star Wars universe that are a warrior-like raiding type people. Put it in the hands of the Maori actor that's the clone that is Boba Fett, and let him go to town on some Empire domes.
And that's what that does fit in with the very much the Star Wars way and feel. I think some of the documentaries that I've watched, they talk about when they're creating new creatures, be it sea creatures. I think they were talking about some of the sea creatures that were created for the underwater scenes as they're leaving the Gungan city, and different things. When they're creating different, like, there's the scene where there's always a bigger fish type thing.
Yeah.
And stuff. Well, what they did is they like to take features that people are familiar with, like certain aspects, like a tail or a fin that looks like, oh, okay, that could, but then they merge it with something else, which makes a lot of sense that you would take something for this gaffy stick that has some sort of relationship of like in reality. So it's a lot easier to picture the idea, because you could see how smoothly he swung that and wielded that stick as if he would needed to or was hunting different prey, and he was definitely hunting.
Dude, he was proficient at his craft. There's this moment though, in the midst of all of this wig splitting of the troopers, where the Razor Crest catches his eye, and once again, as you pointed out,
this knucklehead leaves this thing open all the time.
Yeah, it's like
you need to go in there and loot it.
Never locks his doors, you know.
Yeah.
And I actually paused on this part of the show and like tried to zoom in on my iPad as I was watching it. Like, can I see the outline of Boba's armor inside, you know, the hull of the Razor Crest? And you can kind of see it there. You see the helmet, and you can see the chest plate of the Beskar and everything.
Well, what I know, I can see his eyes dilated, and he's like, the eyes are on the prize. He's like,
yes.
I did not come here, and I did not crack this many skulls to not reclaim this armor at this point. And guess what, boys? When I come back, I am not coming back with just this heavy stick, okay?
Boba chose his moment because he's been living on Tatooine, had to have known that the previous sheriff had this Beskar armor that was his armor. There's no way. Why didn't he take it? Wouldn't it have been easier to take it when he was on Tatooine than to track the Mandalorian who I don't understand the timing of that. Yeah. Like, he's had years.
Yeah. Or maybe it was, maybe for a time it was hidden from him, because, you know, those Jawas, they do the one thing that, that Frodo, was able to do at one point, and that was keep it secret and keep it safe. Okay. Mm-hmm. But
I like the cross genres there.
But you see him once he has the armor on, he is like going through like a checklist of different ways to inflict pain on people.
Dude.
He's doing like a fine tuning. He's like, oh, okay.
Steve, not yet. No, let's savor the moment, man. Back up. Oh. The moment that Boba Fett comes into the scene with the helmet on, with the armor, he's got these old school like Tuscan clothes still on, you know, underwears, but he's wearing that armor, and you're like, this dude is an OG, and nobody whatever happens next, no one stands a chance.
Yeah.
Please continue, Steve.
Well, because what happens is you see, I think the other guys, they start to be somewhat like the numbers look like they're in the odds looking not in their favor. You've got Mando.
The Beskar's taking a lot of shots.
Yes, you've got Mando and the sniper gal that are back to back, and you're like, hold on, aren't there three in this trio?
Right, where is he? Is he down? Is he dead?
What's going? Did he take off?
Right.
Did he leave them? You know, is one thing I think they're wanting. And then you see the grenade come in, and
you just knew,
and you're like, oh,
thermal detonator.
Yeah, thermal detonator means that guy's not about running. And
I'm pretty sure I was watching it with my daughter, and I'm pretty sure when I saw that thermal detonator land on the ground, I went, Boba Fett.
Well, okay, so you see it land, and you realize, oh, okay, he's checking off that this jetpack still works. Okay, he's up in the air. You're not even like, they've got kind of like a low profile, and you don't even see the sun, like the skyline. And then he lands, and he is a very much old school, take care of business. I've got this Clint Eastwood, I can handle Chuck Norris, I can handle myself attitude, where I can use weapons, but my fists are also weapons.
Okay, I appreciate it as far as the armor wear and fit. Like he donned it like it belonged to him, and he belonged to the Beskar. Like we are one, right? But at the same time, I appreciated the girthiness. Like Boba Fett from the originals, you know, from the original movies. He seems kind of like a raily guy, and this armor fits him like just right, and it all is like really tight. And in this scene, it's obvious that he's on in years, and maybe he's not got as much time on feet as he used to, as far as the cardio game. And he's got a little bit of girth to him, and that's fine. This armor is still going to protect him. And, yeah,
it's a little bit more pear-shaped than apple-shaped, or more of not a carrot stick anymore.
He's got a bounty paunch, and I don't know what he's been eating out in the desert, but he's doing all right. Like he's got some reserves. Yeah. But it does not diminish just the majestic arrival of like this original bounty hunter in his armor. He is here, and what is he about to unleash on multiple squadrons of he's already taken care of most of them with the gaffy stick, and now it's time for a cleanup in aisle 4.
Right, and even though they brought in that second squad, one of his first actions after the thermal detonator takes one out is he backhands a guy and then he shoots him.
Right.
Okay, nothing that it like says, I'm not afraid of hurting my hand while I backhand you. It's more of an insult, and then I will shoot you.
Yeah, he was using all points of contact that were available to him within his appendages to inflict damage. Let's break down the different weapons that Boba has at his disposal that we know of and utilizes in this sequence.
Okay, well, obviously we got to check off the back of his hand. Okay, he's willing to
done.
He goes through this series where he picks off 3 or 4 guys with the pistol, and I'm not sure exactly if the troopers have brought in external if it's ammo that he hits, but there's this random box that is sitting there next to like 3 clustered troopers. He shoots that, and it explodes also.
That takes out a couple. It's very strategic. He's like, I could shoot one at a time, or we could go for a 3, 4, or 4. It may have been like the power and ammo supply for that large.
It must be
laser blaster Gatling gun that the troopers were
maybe that's
down
what
with.
it,
yeah
maybe that's what it is. Okay, so then I think out of his left arm he's got some rockets that he takes a couple of guys out with.
Yep. They're pointing at me right now on the screen. I mean, this
it's at like about
down his arm.
18 minutes or so in. 18 minutes 51 seconds or so.
Yep.
Is that what you're about?
Yep.
So what else do you see there?
Oh, backhand, blaster, multiple blaster hits. There goes the ammo dump, and now we go rockets.
Yeah, he goes rockets, but then he also is willing to get the guy in a full Nelson.
That was a twofer. The rockets was a twofer. He shot 1 rocket, took out 2 guys.
Nice.
Oh, there was a 3rd guy. Okay, talk to us about the full Nelson here, or the half Nelson, or whatever.
I love the half Nelson that he has this guy in, because he's not only using it to like block shots from that direction, but so he gets the one guy. He's like, okay, I've got something special for you. I'm going to twist you around. I'm going to punch you, and then I shoot you back with a rocket that propels him back. That's like.
Is that what that was? Was it a rocket, or was it some type of powered like discharge from his glove apparatus? Like what was it? Was that a muzzle blast?
I'm not sure, but the next thing that we see is not a weapon that I know of. But it's really cool when you watch it. Watch him step right there.
Yep.
Right there. That's the scene.
Who puts mini rockets in their like kneecaps?
That's like Whistling Bird's next level. Okay.
I want to compare. I want to compare Boba's missile capabilities, both from the wrist and from the kneecap, to the only missiles that we've seen Mando use are the Whistling Birds, and they seem to be tiny yet diminutive, and they can take down a lot of tangos post haste. You know.
Yeah.
Like, which one would I prefer to have in a brawl? Like, they have their pros and cons.
I think that the Whistling Birds you don't see coming, and there's not like the fear of it, but like watch the immediately after he launches those knee ones. Watch your screen. Yeah. Right after he launches the knee ones. Oh, I'm just watching it here. It gets 5 guys to retreat after they see that like this dude's launching stuff out of his knees. Right. Okay, this is not someone to be messing with. The 5 of us are going to survive and write up our own version of how this went down.
This completely reverses my understanding of what it means to be kneecapped. You know, it's something you don't want to have happen to you. You don't want to kneecap. You don't want to. I mean, kneecapping someone is like maiming them. They're probably not going to walk right the rest of their life. When Boba kneecaps, it's something that's coming from his kneecap and taking you out. And Mando and Fennec can't stop these troopers. Boba goes up. He just holds up his knee. He just puts his knee up, and they're like, "I'm out. I'm done. I'm over it."
Right. It is. Yeah. You see the retreat begin. So
we didn't see it coming. We just didn't see the kneecap thing coming. Sorry, hold on a second. My cat says I'm talking too loud, and I need to let him out of the room. Go. He was tired of our hour and a half long podcast tonight, Steve.
Well, speaking of, we've got some food arriving here at our house soon. So
okay, were you getting the messages there?
DoorDash happens when DoorDash happens. So,
dude, DoorDash messed up my pizza order last night, and you know the rest of that story.
I'm sorry that they did that.
Okay, all right, let's round it out.
Okay, so once again, it's confirmed that not only is he the coolest character ever, he really he's going to be an ideal mentor.
He's back.
Yeah, he's back. It's real. It's not a scene. He's not on Tatooine.
We're not wondering. We're not hoping.
Yeah, he's back in the bed.
Out of the cage.
He's in the crew. Yeah, he's in the crew.
Out of the sandbox. And not only into the crew, he has indebted himself, much to Mando's surprise.
Yes.
And it looks like, is going to be Fennec and Boba will be a part of Mando's team, and Mando needs a ride.
Mikasa Sukasa, because situation has led to
Razor Crest RIP once again.
Yeah.
It's done.
No wonder I couldn't find a bunch of Razor Crest Legos out there.
they got demolished.
Just be blown. Yeah. So note to self: anytime you're not seeing like any products marketed to you, there's a good chance that product's not going to be there at the end.
Dead or blown up.
Yeah. Exactly.
Those are the options, folks.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hey, is your food like on the way, like right now? Like it's going to get there any second?
I think it's going to be here in the next 5 minutes if it hasn't already.
Okay. Let me just read a bullet point of the episode, and let's both pick something to round it out, and then we'll call it good. How about that? Okay. So I had R.I.P. Razor Crest, Dark Troopers, Grogu kidnapped.
Yes.
Boba's going to be with Mando for the duration of the season. Already said that.
Mm-hmm.
Grogu in a cell using the Force on troopers. Anger? From fear? It leads to hate? Maybe suffering?
He's toying with them, isn't he?
Oh, it's a dark moment where we're like, that's not the Grogu that we've grown to love.
Right.
There's something he's scared.
Yeah. He's backed into a corner.
Well, and this is, I think, the potential we're seeing here, and the way he responded to it it was the foreshadowing of Ahsoka on not wanting to train him for fear that it could lead down a dark path because of his attachments. Yep. And now he's been detached from Mando, violently by the Dark Troopers. Anyway.
Yeah, very scarring incident with the Dark Troopers. Dark Troopers are obviously what Moff Gideon was working on that we saw foreshadowed.
And there's many more of them.
Yeah, like pretty ominous. like you see like Iron Man droids coming out of the sky.
Right.
Little
And also
scary.
X-Men's Sentinels was another kind of parallel there that I was thinking about. And Moff Gideon kind of shows up and rubs the captivity of Grogu in his face, making fun of him, mocking him, and then just pulls the Darksaber out for fun when he doesn't have the power to, like, use the Force to retaliate. Right. And then they stun the little guy to sleep.
Yeah. Well,
that's worse than Benadryl in your kid's food, on a car trip.
Yeah, but it seems like Moff Gideon's pretty educated, understanding that once he wields the Force, that there's this down cycle time where he is weakened and has to sleep, which is a little ominous and scary that he knows about that background there. Not sure if Moff Gideon's. Do we think he's Sith? Do we think he has like Force abilities? He clearly feels comfortable wielding isn't it the Darksaber?
Yeah.
Is that what they?
Yep. I think he's got everything but the Force, and I think either he wants the Force or they're cloning Sith, and they can't fabricate or manufacture the ability to wield the Force, but so they're trying to transfer it from Grogu to these shells that they're cloning from Sith DNA. That's kind of my just layman's guess at this. When they put the shackles on Grogu, I was like, do you think the shackles stop the Force? Are they Force preventable shackles? Because if they're not, then when he wakes up, we're just gonna, second verse same as first here. Stormtroopers are going to be doing calisthenics unwillingly.
Right. Yeah, and I'll have to think back and now watch next time I'm watching some of the Clone Wars. If there's times where they put in binder cuffs or something on different Jedi that has neutralized them, or how they've done that,
or imprison them in some way that puts some type of dampening shield around them where the Force can't be affected through that.
Right. But in the same way that they, put Magneto in that all plastic, chamber when they were isolating back in the old version of X-Men. But I saw that you noted, the shackles. You wanted to talk about that, and then do you have some big reflections on this week? Yeah, I'm a little concerned about Grogu now that we know his name. How dark things might get.
I'm afraid of this fear. I'm afraid that the Force has been. It's been hibernating within him. He's been on the Seeing Stone to where he's now communed with the Force, and now he's tuned in again to this ability at some level. And then he's immediately captured. It's fascinating that Ahsoka sends them to this planet, to this rock, so that a Jedi may. It was very ambiguous. Mando took these things as like letter of the law and as like gospel. Like she said this, but if you listen to the things that like what he heard that she said and what she actually said, when you go back and listen to the episode, she was very ambiguous. You take him to this rock, and if he connects, then Jedi.
I don't understand why she's not willing to write like a letter of recommendation to some other Jedis out there, like
some instructions maybe.
Instead of, well, if I were you, I would go apply to college, and where you apply to Jedi college is you have to go to the Seeing Stone.
But isn't the likelihood, if there's Sith out there, that they could just as easily respond as Jedi could respond? And who do we have respond? We have Moff Gideon. But why does he respond? Because there's a tracker on the Razor Crest that he promptly blows up. But I think my last just kind of thought here on what is the way when we talk about creed and connecting this back to.
Before we get too deep there, I do kind of think that like Grogu, like him being on the Seeing Stone, him being at a Jedi temple, like you said, it was like in Super Mario Brothers when you is it like mushrooms or something where you powered up? Like he had like one of these booster moments where he, I think, took in a lot, or either saw something, or his there was stuff awaken inside of him.
Right.
Like you said, I think he's a lot more powerful than he was 2 episodes ago.
Oh, I think so too. But it also shot off this beacon. It was it acted as some type of beacon, which Ahsoka had kind of alluded to. But for my parting kind of like spiritual in-depth, what is the way thought here from this episode? It goes back to the first part of the conversation of the episode where Mando is kind of wanting to rush through this. Like, we're here on the planet, sit on the rock. Okay, is it working yet? How do you know if it's working? What about this Jedi stuff? Are you supposed to be doing something? What am I? It's just all of this, like all of a sudden he becomes kind of neurotic about all this. We cannot rush spiritual formation. I remember one time I heard a message where they were talking about spiritual formation and growing our relationship with Christ. It's a daily, just like anything else, it's a daily discipline. It's a daily choice. It's something that we choose to do. It doesn't happen all of a sudden. It's like growing a garden. If you're going to have carrots in your garden, you don't go out every day, pull up the seed that you planted in the dirt and see if it grew any and then put it back in the dirt. You tend to it. You water it. You make sure it gets sunlight. You feed the soil. You give it space. You let it breathe. You do tend to it, but you cannot rush the growth cycle of a garden. And you can't, when you, in the Jedi realm, when you rush the process of the Force, you get the dark side. You get the shortcut. You get the cheap version of you get what you pay for, you know? And so I think that my parting thought is just, you can't rush spiritual formation in faith in Christ. You grow into it. And Grogu still has some growing to do. And now they're going to try to shortcut the process by doing some type of, force splice. But I think that Mando now, he's got a whole new problem. Now he's got to recapture the kid. He's got to reapprehend the kid, which he's a bounty hunter, paired up with 2 other bounty hunters. This is probably in their favor. They're used to working around the Empire and the Old Republic. But I think that this is going to take Mando on a whole new path of deep inner thought and reflection and growth. But it just totally hamstrings the quest to get the kid to the Jedi. So I'm interested to see how a toss in what seems like an opposite direction is going to actually land the storyline where it's going as it tumbles forward with the rescue of the child. So
yeah, it'll be interesting as he's starting to put together this ragtag crew of unconventional individuals that may not ever cross paths except maybe in a cantina somewhere, and how they've
or prison.
They are like each one's indebted to the other is indebted to now Mando, and I think it's interesting that my parting thought was that at times, in general, you kind of have an idea where your path and what steps need to be taken. But it seems like at the end of the episode, Mando's been given just what the next step is. And the next step is that he needs either this hacker or this embezzler or this guy that's like locked behind bars. That's the next key to putting together the dream team, the Ocean's 11 of the Outer Rim. And,
I love it.
I'm excited to see where things go, because that's kind of how it is sometimes in our faith walk. We don't know. We have a general direction of where we are going, but sometimes it's only revealed what the next step is.
And it's the journey, and it's on the way. And I think Mando is going to be mentored, for better or for worse, by Boba, and that's cool. Like, there's a bunch of bounty hunter craft to glean, and a lot of time of marinating out in the Tatooine desert. Okay, last thing here. your perspective, my perspective on why did they name this episode The Tragedy? For reals.
I honestly thought that we were going to have revealed to us a flashback of Grogu, of like what caused him to go into hiding. Oh, he was scarred. And so I was kind of disappointed that wasn't revealed, because Ahsoka like kind of led us to believe that, hey, this guy's emotionally been scarred, and now he's got this incorrect, he's got feelings for you, dude. So that's why I'm saying I'll pass. So The Tragedy, I guess somebody would say it was a tragedy that he was taken, but I mean, there's a lot of good things that are potentially going to come out of it.
I think it has to be that it was taken, but my heart cries out for the Razor Crest on a silly note. I mean, that ship is pretty cool. I mean, it used to be.
Yeah. I mean, remember the good old, fish netting days and paracord.
Long for those days.
But honestly, I think what we found out is that, like, apparently there's some Beskar that was being used as a shifter knob, because if it survives like the same way that the Beskar spear did, I don't know how you identify Beskar other than clanging it against other Beskar. We may have something there, but I think there'll be a big moment where there's, hey, would you like this little ball?
It's gonna be rolling through the episodes here, and there's this another ominous line of they're back. The Empire is back.
Yes.
Yeah.
All
right. Well, this is our longest episode ever, Steve, and I have absolutely no regrets except that your family didn't yell at you more for yelling our conversation. That's my only regret this episode.
Okay.
Besides other things that involved stopping the recording and then restarting the recording, which will remain a mystery to anybody that's listening. But yeah, man, what is the way?
I would say this is the way.
Keep searching.
You have a good one, Kenny.
All right. You too, Steve. Have a good night, bro.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.